welcome back. This is the carb rebuild video. I'm going to go into detail about what parts to mess with, what not to mess with, what needs to be cleaned, what parts to watch out for. So here we go. Alright, so I've got the carbs already taken off the engine. I'm going to get these cleaned up. I got a little bit more gasket I got to remove first off of both of these, and then I'll start getting these taken apart, clean up, get these rebuilt. So I went ahead and redid the upper carb. I'm going to show you on the lower carb the process. I wanted to make sure that I got everything and figured out exactly what needed to come loose, what should come loose, and so forth. So first off, we're going to take the filter cover off. It's an inline filter. Going to loosen this nut, or this bolt. Take it off. Now the other filter was pretty dirty. Had a big block of gunk. Hold on to that plastic washer, as my kits don't have a replacement. So we'll hold on to that. I'm going to break the filter housing free. Now this one probably hasn't been off ever, because I noticed this gasket was in the same condition. This is a cork gasket that's right there. It doesn't really look like one anymore, but I had to completely scrape that out, and it took a good minute. I'll show you. But this is your filter screen to help screen the fuel as you bring it in, or as it comes in the fuel line from the pumps. Clean that out real good. Spray it from the inside so it pushes it out through any holes that might be gunked up. I got those parts set aside. I'm going to go ahead and take off the bowl cap. It takes 2 screws. Hold this on, then there's a gasket underneath as well. Just like so. Go ahead and clean these screws off. Really nice clean. Threads are cleaned out. And let those sit and dry. I'll take the bowl cap off. Now this one is a rubber gasket. It should come off. Did have to kind of clean the surface a little bit afterwards on the other one. It's going to be the same way. It doesn't require much. Just make sure you get a lot of the gasket material off so that way the new one doesn't sit funny on there. All right, so we're going to spray that off. So we're not dealing with loose material. Now these are this allows the fuel from the fuel filter, comes in here, and it fills up. When that bowl float comes up, it'll stop the fuel flow. So we'll go over changing out the parts on that here in a minute. Plus I got to get that gasket off. For now, we're going to continue working on this. The floats actually don't look too bad, but we're going ahead and changing them out anyway. We got brand new ones. I don't know how long those have been in. So I've got right here, this is the drain for the bowl, as well as behind it is the main jet. So we're going to pop that loose. Make sure we get the gasket off of here because that will get replaced. Now your idle mixture screw right here, what you want to do is go to the right and see how many turns it takes till it bottoms out. Once you hit that point, don't torque it down, but remember that number for reassembly. That way you can get the idle mixture about where it was. So 1, 2, 3 turns. So 1.5 full turns. The other one was about 2.5. Be careful as you pull this out. It does have a spring on there. We'll make sure that stays in place, or stays in sight at least. So we'll get that cleaned up. We're not going to worry about the linkages. The throttle plate looks pretty good. Spring's in good shape. We'll just clean around it. Now this is the Welch plug is what it's called. They are mechanical jets that allow for certain amounts of vacuum to be created for the pull of the fuel. So like right there you got 2 jets. I don't know how well you can see it. Right in there you got 2 jets. If you open it up just a little bit, there's a 3rd opening as well, and that just adjusts the amount of vacuum there is inside the carburetor. So we're not going to mess with that. Don't have any reason to, and it didn't come with replacements. But normally what you do, you drill that out. A good way to do it is drill a big enough hole and use a pick to pick it out. Be very careful. Do not drill too deep if you are to replace that. Most people won't need to. Now this plug on the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and take that out just to make it easier, and just in case for that, just to make it easier to clean, and in case I have an issue getting a hold of the gasket for the jet, which I'll remove here in a moment. It does have Loctite around it, so when you assemble it, it's good to have it just almost tightened up and then put a little bit of Loctite in there. That way you're not getting it deep in the threads or anything, and it ends up gumming up the jets. So I'm not going to worry about the Venturi tube connection that's inside there. I know it's a little hard to see. Lighting's not real good, but there we go. That right in there. You do need to have an appropriately sized screwdriver if you are to take that out. I advise not taking it out. You can pretty much clean everything out perfectly fine unless they are really gunky. But and then leave this one in. That's the main tube right there. And then this slip cover is what I was talking about in here. So it's a protector sleeve for the Venturi as it goes in. So I got it pretty much taken apart as far as I'm gonna do. Just got to get the jet out. Now a lot of these are brass parts, or in the case of the jet, you do want to be careful as well. Removing when it comes time to tightening, you do not want to put a lot of force on these. It will deform them and tear them up. There we go. A little spritz of carb cleaner once you have it loose, and it should help it get out. So we've got the bowl emptied. You got the jet and the drain plug removed. You got that cap removed. Everything else is in pretty good shape, so we're going to wash this down. Be careful as you spray this stuff. For instance, that is not an opening. That is for connecting a bolt on the outside. Get this nice and cleaned out. Make sure there's no gunk both ways. Clean the housing. If you need to, have a brush handy for the housing. Be able to get into nooks and crannies. This one's got an extra brush on the back side. And this just helps to get everything nice and clean. Clean parts run better. They run cooler, and they will wear out less often. Now this is all finished as far as the cleaning on this item. While this sits to dry, I'm going to go over the filler pin and show you how to put it together, or how to take it apart and put it back together with new parts. And here's a quick look. I hadn't cleaned this bowl out yet, but here's a quick look at all the gunk that screen helped keep out of the carburetor jets. So all of that was sitting in there. This should help everything run a lot smoother. It'll keep the flow of the fuel from being hindered. Here's that upper cork gasket. Got that out. Would fill in down there. And this helps create the upper seal, and then there's the lower gasket as well. It helps hold that fuel screen in place so you don't have any dirt running through into the carbs. Okay, now the float pin is right in here. We are going to end up probably having to make some adjustments as well after we get it out. But what you're going to want to do is have a pair of vice grips. And my kit includes a new set of these pins, a new stopper pin, and these will get reused. But it also comes with a gasket underneath and new seat for the pin as well. What you'll do is you want to push it up with the vice grips, be real gentle as you can, and you push it up, and there's little grooves on the pin. You want those dig into it to lock it in place. So you'll pull that out, pull the arm off, do the same thing over here. Now this one, it'll be a little harder to just press it out, but once you get it unlocked, sometimes you can just go ahead and get it with the pliers. Other times you do have to take, say, a Phillips head or a punch, hold it in place and just pop it down a little bit, and that will help get it out. So there's the other pin. There's the other arm. Set that aside. Now we got our stopper pin. This one's in good shape, but we're going to go ahead and replace it anyway. Be careful as you pull this out. You don't want to break any of the outside parts, but it really is in there. If you can do a socket, it's easier with the socket. That is a 5/16. Find something, a spot that has a good feel that you can lock onto just for leverage, and you break that loose. It is a lot easier with the socket. So there's the seat. As you can see on the old one, it has a little rubber seal right there. Everything should be self-contained in this new one. And you want to replace the exact same gaskets and thicknesses as what you currently have. So I'll need that, these two for the jet and the jet plug. That for the top of the bowl. You got your smaller cork washer. That's for the other carb. Got your larger cork washer. Got a measuring tool. Comes with each one. So that way you can measure this out when we get to it. Got our 2 pins, brand new ones. Set those over here so I don't mix them up. And then there's a few gaskets, of course, that you will not use. Actually, I believe, yes, the smaller ones then. There we go. So that's all my gaskets that I'll need for this rebuild. This is the old seat. There's also a little washer, seal that's in here. Take a minute to get it moving and unstuck, but this is it right here. That part will be getting replaced, so I'll put that up there. Clean all the parts out really good. All right, so we're gonna wait for that to dry out, and then we will finish putting this back together. So that we got this all dried out. First thing we're gonna do, put this little brass washer in there, or copper washer, looks like. I'm gonna put this down in. Go ahead and screw this into place. Don't torque it down crazy, but make sure it's good and snug. That way it's not going to come out on you. Go ahead and place this down in there. Ensure that it slides. Of course, with the fuel, that'll also create a lubricant, the fuel and oil. These are our old pins. And go ahead and put in these new pins. These only go in one way. That actually easier. Go ahead and put this one in first. It's going to go in where it loops under. push this into place. Once you get the pin to go in all the way, you're going to take those vice grips and push it down till it's flat, like so. We'll do the other one. That one's going to sit over top of that. And our other new pin. Slip that in there. Now this seat is slightly different in shape, so we'll have to make adjustments on these. Alright, we're going to go ahead and push our pin in there. And you want this. They do have a spacing, I think it's 13/30 seconds. Was what it was. I can't remember for sure, but pretty much you want this top one to be flat, so that way it goes in as far as possible. There it is. It's not perfect, but with the float pushing on it, it levels it out. This way, you want it around a 1/4 inch. So that's where this comes into play. It's roughly about a 1/4 inch from the tip straight up to the other arm there. This may be just a hair over, which is fine. But you want it about a 1/4 inch spacing. So that's all set to go. We'll go ahead and start reassembling now. So we have our carb here. Got our brand new float. Now the float, how it's going to go in, you want the springs to come up because that's what hits these plates, and it'll give it a little tension room and a little bit of wiggle room there as it hits. You're going to put this opening straight down on the pin that's inside there and make sure it slips down. Go ahead and put this gasket on. We'll face it, long screw next to the carburetor, short screw is going to be to the outside. Go ahead and kind of screw that in, make it a little easier. Ensure that goes through the opening in the gasket. And we're going to go ahead and snug these down. None of these should they have to be really torqued down. So let's snug down into place. So that's set to go. Next, we're going to go ahead and put in the jet, get that part out of the way. So we got our gasket. It's going to go right over the jet. And the goal is to try and get this in without jacking up the gasket. So try and put it in like so. Turn it sideways. Go straight in with it and it should start threading. You want to make this snug, but don't torque it down so you don't mess up the jet. So we're snug down. We're going to go ahead and put the plug in the bottom. And I will go back and I don't have Loctite right now, but I'll go back, loosen these a little bit, and put the Loctite around. What you want to do on that when I do get it, loosen this a bit, like so. Put the Loctite in around it, snug it down, and just leave it where it spits it out. That way it's got a nice grip in the threads and outside, but you don't want it to go too far down or else it can gunk up the passages for the fuel. Go and put your bowl drain plug in and put the gasket on there, your replacement gasket. Snug it into position. Go ahead and do our idle mixture screw. Now remember, this one was about three turns from bottomed out. So it's bottomed out. 1, 2, 3. It's about where it was on this one. The other one was about 2.5. I don't know if that's because of where the carburetors sit. They'll end up stacked just like so, linked together for the throttle plates. We're going to go ahead and put the filter on. Get this screen put back in. So you got your large cork gasket. You got the fuel screen. I just try to center it up best I can, just so it has access all around. If it ends up sitting slightly off after it goes on, it's not a big deal. This end, it's a little trickier. You want to reach in and push it into place because it'll be a little snug on this end. So try not to use anything that would tear it up. If you do use something like a screwdriver, be very gentle, just enough to push it down into place around the center. Make sure your screen's on, and then place your screen cover into place. Hand tighten.
Let's go. Be nimble.
You can adjust this before you tighten it down. Just hand tighten it down. And this one's going to be all set. So we're going to put this into position, about centered on the 2 screws for the arm. I believe should put it about right, but I can loosen this screw and adjust where needed once I put these back on the engine. Tighten this down till it's snug, That'll help keep it from moving on you, and then snug it down with a wrench or adjustable wrench. Remember, not too crazy tight. Just got to seal it against the cork gasket, and that is going to do it. From this point, simply put the gasket on the stud. It'll go over right here. Tighten down the 2 nuts, and you are all set to go. So that's going to do it for the carburetor video. If you did like this video, make sure to smash that like button. If you're not a subscriber, make sure to subscribe to the video. And if you have any questions or comments, hit up that comment section as well. I'll be happy to answer any questions you got. I'll have the engine teardown video coming up soon. And then we'll get into the pistons and eventually the boat as well. But until next time.